Raw 4 TV. What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw 4 TV, aka Darth Apocalypse. All right, so let's get to this. Let me throw out an olive branch of sorts. All right, LeBron James is a great player. I don't say it a lot because sometimes that's what his fan base want people to say, and it's never enough. They want you to say he's the greatest, which he's clearly not, but he's a great player. But I do believe that he has dishonored the game in so many different ways, which is why I don't have him in my top 10. He dishonors the game first and foremost by the fact that I strongly believe that he uses performance-enhancing drugs, allegedly. That in itself disqualifies him from being a top 10 all-time player. And I think it's fair since people do the same thing with Barry Bonds. People do the same thing with Roger Clemens. Oh, well, because they use it, they're disqualified from just being in that discussion. So I do the same thing with him. It's all fair. But on top of that, with all of the shenanigans he gets into, and the skill shaming he does with players of the past, and with having literally what appears to be hundreds of people linked to Clutch or linked to ESPN or linked to that whole Lemedia mafia, whose job it is to consistently uplift LeBron and downplay every other contemporary that stands in comparison to him or his teammates, to uplift him and to downplay Michael Jordan and whoever else is in his way, Kobe Bryant, whatever. So that's why we go so hard to paint. Now, I'm aware that one of the pride and joys of Lemedia is this 2007 playoff run of his when he went to the NBA Finals in 2007. They said, oh, man, that's just one of the great runs, historic runs. And I watched LeBron James back then when I was a fan of his. And while it was a great run, I've always said that Allen Iverson's run was more impressive to me than that. Hell, in some ways, you can make an argument the 1994 Denver Nuggets as an 8 seed, even though they got ousted in the semis, but they did go 7 games. Hell, the fact that they knocked out a 63-win team and took, I think, a Utah Jazz team that won 60 games to the 7th game of the semis, I think that's more impressive in some ways. Or the 2023 Miami Heat, who were the 8th seed. They were literally minutes away from being eliminated in the play-in tournament by the Chicago Bulls, and they made it all the way to the NBA Finals. That, to me, was more impressive than what LeBron did. But, sometimes we get accused of being old heads hating on the new generation, right? So I present to you, I don't know this brother's name, but he's clearly a young head. And he is proof that not all young heads are ignoramuses. Many of them have common sense. They can do the research. They can look at the game footage. They can look at the temperature or read the temperature of what was going on at that time by doing a little bit of simple research. And he came to the conclusion that LeBron James is not the GOAT. In the 2007 finals run that people, attached themselves to, like it's, a Doberman on a woman's leg. It's so overrated.
One of the biggest problems I have with LeBron fans is that they're always creating false narratives. If LeBron James is the greatest of all time, like y'all say, why must y'all continuously create false narratives? One of the biggest false narratives that fan base loves to spread is that LeBron James carried a bunch of teams that he did not actually carry. There's always this bullshit ass narrative with LeBron fans that LeBron carried his '07 squad to the NBA Finals. Now, we all know LeBron played like shit in the '07 Finals, and that's why the Cavs lost. But what a lot of people don't realize is LeBron's shitty play started even before the NBA Finals. LeBron and the Cavs played in 20 games in the playoffs that year. 20 games including the NBA Finals. And out of those 20 games, LeBron shot under 40% in 10 of those 20 games. That means in half of the games in that playoff, LeBron James shot under 40%. Now, if we go up to 45%, LeBron James had 14 of the 20 games played under 45% shooting, which means he had 70% of that playoff run under 45% shooting from the field. First off, let's talk about how trash the Eastern Conference was that year. You had 8 teams under 500. That means over half of the Eastern Conference was under 500. Mind you, the Cleveland Cavaliers were the only other team in the Eastern Conference with at least 50 wins other than the Detroit Pistons. They were the 2nd seed, but LeBron fans talk about this run as if he carried an 8th seed to the finals. They swept the first round against the 41-41 Wizards, who was missing 2 of their top 3 players, and somehow LeBron James only managed to shoot 42% from the field. They beat the 41-41 Nets in the second round in 6 games, and somehow LeBron James still only managed to shoot 42% from the field. Now, when we get to the Eastern Conference Finals, LeBron fans love talking about Game 5. And I don't blame them, because I always say to this day, that is the best game that I've ever watched LeBron James play live. But you want to know why LeBron fans don't ever talk about other games in that series besides Game 5? It's because he played like shit for the rest of the series. LeBron James averaged about 26 points on 45% shooting in that series. But if you take away that historic Game 5 where he scored 48 points, LeBron for the rest of the series averaged 21 points on 34% shooting. In the NBA Finals, LeBron James didn't have one game where he shot the ball over 45%. In his best game, he shot 43%, and in the other 3 games, he was under 40%. Somehow, the Cavs still were not blown out, and they lost by an average margin of 6 points per game. The Cavaliers were a top 5 defensive team that year, and they had a decent amount of shooters. And with LeBron James doing some inefficient shot chucking throughout the majority of those playoffs, the Cavaliers still made it to the finals. But somehow, some way, according to LeBron fans, he carried them.
Yeah. He was cooking right there, man. I've always talked about this. And also in those playoffs, he only shot 28% from downtown. Now, to be fair, this was still technically the dead ball era, especially in the Eastern Conference. But we were like transitioning out of that era. But still, when you look at the fact that during the regular season, LeBron averaged 27.3 points on 47.6% shooting. And for that to plummet down to 25 points a game on 41.6% shooting. And it wasn't like, I mean, that's very unsettling. And LeBron's inability to knock down jumpers, right, is partially what made that Game 5 on the road in Detroit so unique and so special, because LeBron was doing something in that game that he normally doesn't do, and that is consistently knock down outside shots. He got into a special rhythm in that game, and no defense in the world was going to stop him in that particular game, right? But that was a once in a 10-year type performance for him. because he rarely ever has those types of games where everything is that he's throwing up is going in. Like, what other game can you think of? Like, the only game I could think of that he was like that, just making everything he was throwing up, was that game that came on TV a couple years when we dropped 56 against the Warriors. That's 2023, 22. So these things don't really happen that often. Yeah, he's had 50-point games, but it's usually like a mixture of him driving to the basket, mid range, and outside. But just knocking down long twos and outside shots and threes, no. And then in game 6, when LeBron played like shit again, I think he went 3 of 14 from the field or something like that, 3 of 17. When he shot like shit again, it was Daniel Booby Gibson who was the hero, dropping 31 points coming off the bench. See, and that's what pisses me off about the Lemedia, is they make it seem like LeBron was just playing with a bunch of like G leaguers, and he was playing with established pros. He was playing with the guys, Julius Sagauskas, who had to change his game. Julius Sagauskas was a typical, post player. Well, I won't say typical, but he was a post player when he came to the league. Giving you probably like 16 and 11. He was a good big man. He had to change his game to be more of a jump shooting big man to play with LeBron James, right? So this didn't just start with Chris Bosh and these other guys. They had to do that then. That's why a lot of these guys didn't look all that great playing with LeBron. They had to change their games. Okay, Larry Hughes, before he was playing with LeBron, Larry Hughes was like the wizard Scottie Pippen. He was putting up 20 points a game. He was leading the NBA in steals. He was a top 5 candidate or top 6 candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. But he never looked quite as good playing with LeBron James. Donnell Marshall was one of the original stretch fours. He once shared the NBA record for most three-pointers in the game with 12. He was playing with the Raptors, which is just a year before he joined LeBron. Matter of fact, the year before he joined LeBron, I think it was the year before he joined him. Yeah. The year before he joined LeBron, he averaged a career high 16.2 points on 40% shooting from outside. During that championship year, 7 points a game, 35% from outside. Wasn't playing as good. Wasn't as consistent. It's just LeBron has like the opposite Midas touch when it comes to other talent, man. And if he was doing that in his prime, what makes you think it's going to be any different when he goes to Philly? When he actually starts playing games with Philly, it's going to be a disaster, and they're going to blame everybody else. And I told you, Richard Jefferson will come on TV and say LeBron needs help.